Dalton, who is each of our number 3 receiver in this draft?
How about, and a little bit of a down year statistically this year, but I think there's other reasons for that. How about Luther Burden III from Missouri? And if you want a guy who is just explosive with the ball in his hands in the, I love Trevor had pointed out maybe DJ Moore as sort of a comp, Stephon Diggs, early career when he was really doing things after the catch. I think Luther Burden fits into that mold. The speed is explosive. There's fast guys, and then there's guys like Luther Burden. He gets a step. He's gone, right? That old saying, he's even, he's leaving. We've seen that before, especially in 2023. We saw it, yards after catch, monster. If you're a team that's missing the yak element to your receiving game, this is somebody you think about in the top 20 to 25 of this draft. Screens, productive as all hell. He can get downfield, obviously. You've mentioned it too. For a guy who's not that big, he's kind of got average size, better in contested situations too than you might think. I know you have the numbers on that, but I think that's where it starts. He's the sort of guy you find a way 10 to 12 times a game, just get the football in his hands. He's a running back playing receiver, obviously a better route runner than most backs going out there would be, but that's what you're looking to take advantage of with Luther Burden. Speed, yards after catch ability, broken tackles, contested catches that he can still make in those areas. I would love to see him in one of the Kyle Shanahan type offenses that emphasizes making those catches over the middle of the field and maximizing yards after catch. I think if you're talking about, obviously the 49ers are kind of loaded at receiver right now. Maybe they don't need him, but you think about the Miamis and the Clevelands and teams that run that sort of thing. Even, God, if they don't need him really, but if Kevin O'Connell had him in Minnesota, somebody like that who gets him open over the middle of the field and maximizes yards after catch, that's an offense I would love to see him in.
Listen, he's a weapon. He's just a weapon with the ball in his hands. 1,097 yards after the catch, 4th among the last 2 years, 4th among all receivers in the country. 30 broken tackles this past year. That led the nation for all wide receivers. Strong frame, 5'11", 208 pounds, though. Makes him really difficult to tackle. And you mentioned the speed at 208 pounds is crazy as well. Only 4 pounds lighter than Tedero McMillan, even though he's 6 inches shorter than Tedero McMillan as well. So he's a very, very strong frame at that size. And again, like you said, he's more than just a yak receiver. He won in 50-50 situations thanks to his strong hands and really good athleticism. 54% contested catch rate over the last 2 years. Again, if you're over 50% in contested catch rate, that's really good. And he was at 54% over the last 2 years and only a 4% drop rate over the last 2 years. Won consistently against man and zone coverage. Now, his production did take a step back this year. He had 500 fewer yards than what he did as a sophomore. But I think much of that could be due to the quarterback situation. Brady Cook was not nearly as good this year as he was the year before. And I thought the play calling Missouri took a step back this year as well. The one thing with Burton's game, though, that I want to see get a little bit better, he's not as refined of a route runner. Sometimes he looks like he's overthinking it out there, so he makes him go kind of half speed on some routes. And he was used as a slot receiver most often in Missouri's offense. But again, my comp for him personally, I've had this comp since his freshman year, was Deebo Samuel. I just think this is a guy you put the ball in his hands. He's an offensive weapon, extremely dangerous with the ball in his hands, can win in contested situations as well. He's an ideal fit as a Z receiver for a team. Just got to refine the route running a little bit to reach his full potential. But if he does refine the route running, he could absolutely be a easy number 1 receiver, an easy top 15 receiver in the NFL.
I think because he's a guy who's a 5-star prospect. Right?
Oh, yeah, he's like number 3 overall recruit coming out of high school.
Right, so he's basically always walked on to almost every football field he's been on. He's been the best athlete, right? And I think that's what I see in the routes that you mentioned. It feels like he dances a little too much, right? Like he knows he's got the best feet out there on the field at any given time, but you still at times have to be a little more physical in the nature of how you go about it and a little more efficient, right? So I think his issues are very much coachable, and he can be a dynamic weapon in the league. Deebo, you mentioned, I think he's not quite as thick as Deebo, especially his upper body, because Deebo, I mean, you could move him to running back, and he would be just fine there. I think Trevor, again, has mentioned DJ Moore. I think that's a really good one, too, as someone who's great after the catch and has turned into a really solid route runner at the NFL level. So I think Burden, there's a boatload of potential. And again, I think if he goes to an offense that maximizes that sort of yards after catch ability, I think about all the Shanahan offenses, or I think about even like say the Tampa Bay Bucks, if they don't keep Chris Godwin, boy, I think Burden would fit right in there for as much as they emphasize that. So I think there's a lot of places he would fit in, and anybody with this type of speed a coach is going to want.
Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.